We're back with West Oahu Chancellor Gene Awakuni. At what point did you have the confidence and know that, you know what, you could do it and you believed in it, whatever everyone else told you?
Well, one thing that I felt that I always had, and I've reflected on this quite a bit over the years, I always felt from the earliest time, even from kindergarten, that I was going to do something someday. I didn't know what it was, and of course I had, this very circuitous path. But I always felt from the earliest time I had confidence in myself. It wasn't like somebody told me at some point, I mean, they told me, and then I sort of realized what I could do. But in terms of the confidence in my own abilities, I always felt like I had that.
What things have you had to work on personally in order to get to the position that you're at today?
Well, one of the things that are important for any administrator, I believe, is communication skills. And one of the things that, coming from when I was in the 7th grade, my English teacher couldn't understand me because of my pidgin. My pidgin was so thick. And I remember one night on Parents' Night, open house, man, she was surprised. My mother speaks wonderful English for a 90-year-old woman from the plantations. She has very, very good articulation of English. And this English teacher was surprised because she thought she was from a foreign country because of the way I spoke. And, so I tell the local kids, I tell actually all of the students I've worked with from Stanford to, here at UH, so work on your communication skills. Because at the level that I'm at now, it was as vice president and then chancellor, all you do most of the day is communicate with different audiences, donors, faculty, fellow administrators, students, and you got to do it both orally and in writing. And that, to me, has been the biggest challenge and thing that I've done to try to improve myself.
Can you break out into a full pidgin conversation if you wanted to?
Well, not that easy for having been away 25 years, but I can get down with my friends, sometimes.
What's the most dramatic turnaround you've seen one of the students that you've helped mentor go through?
There's so many. I mean, at one time, I was, there's some students who've been through, but, I was trained as a psychologist, so I worked as a therapist for a while, and then became director of psych services. And I had one student who was in severe depression for a couple of years, and this was down at UCI. And I worked with him for about 2 years on a weekly basis. And he was an undergrad of tremendous ability, but just couldn't handle it emotionally. And when I got to Stanford, this is 15, 20 years later, I'm walking across a parking lot, and I see this guy smiling, walking toward me, and it's the same student. And we sat down. He said, "I don't know if you remember me, Dr. Awakuni," but I said, "Of course I remember him." After spending so much time with him, and we went and had coffee, and he told me the story of how he went on, got his PhD, he's teaching at Stanford. Now, I worked in Silicon Valley, first in the business sector, and then moved into teaching, and then became a resident fellow for students, so he could help mentor students himself. I mean, that was, an incredible experience. For an educator, there's no better feeling than to have a student who has had tough times come through it and achieve success.
How were you able to go from, car racing interest to actually developing yourself as being a leader? Or do you think you've always been that kind of leader? It's just focusing on something different.
I think I don't want to sound arrogant about it, but I think I've had leadership qualities from early on that have been cultivated. Now, in the early days, it was for bad reasons, right? Being leader of a gang and stuff like that. But I think it's now redirected in a very productive sort of area and doing something that is of value to students, to the community, to the state. So it's, people, I always said it when I talk about leadership, that you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that everyone has the ability to lead. You just have to focus it in a manner that allows you to concentrate all of your energy on this one issue that you're wanting to achieve, or one issue that you're wanting to address. I don't think there's any big secret about it. Just sort of believing in yourself and having other folks that support your beliefs.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.